So this is the Earthquake XT 20-volt lithium cordless impact gun. This is a Harbor Freight product and costs about $250 in the store. And being a Harbor Freight product, you expect it to be junk. Most everything they sell there is kind of a one-time use tool, but my little brother has told me that this is one of the exceptions and is a worthwhile purchase. So we have a couple of school buses, and one of the problems that we have is not being able to remove the lug nuts off of the wheels. The issue being that lug nuts on a car are usually around 75 foot-pounds of torque, where the ones on school buses are more like 500 to 600. So that's a pretty big difference. I looked around for reviews on this impact, and the ones that I saw, they were testing it on cars. So you weren't really getting an idea of if it could do a heavy-duty job or not. So I went ahead and bought this after using an 3/4 inch air impact gun that didn't have enough oomph to do it. That was also a Harbor Freight tool and was rated on the package. They claimed up to 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, which would have been plenty for one of these, but it wasn't even budging a lug nut. So I went ahead and picked this up, and we're going to see if it can do a school bus lug nut. Now this is our Thomas Vista 3600. It's our short bus that we've been living in for the last year and a couple of months. We did have, when we first got this bus, we actually blew out 2 rear tires and were stranded on the side of the highway until we could get a mobile tire repairer to come out and give us some assistance. But we definitely did not have tools capable of taking these lug nuts off. They are seriously strong lug nuts that need a lot of torque to take off. So what I've got is a 1 5/16 deep, or not so deep well socket on here. It's a 3/4 inch drive, and I use a reducer from the 1/2 inch of the drill to the 3/4 of the socket. And again, these lug nuts have between 500 and 600 foot-pounds of torque on them, and none of the tools that I've had in the past were able to do this job. So here is the Earthquake XT. And it took that off like it was nothing. So that's a pretty surprising result for a cordless Harbor Freight tool. We'll go ahead and do a second one. That one took a little more effort, but it pulled it off. All right, let's try the big bus. So this is our 32-foot Bluebird TC2000 that we recently picked up. This is the bus that we're using for our second build, and we just got one of the front tires replaced on it. The guy at the tire shop used a air impact gun that was about 4 feet long that looked like it really needed 2 people to pick up and carry, and that's what he used to put these lug nuts back on when he was done changing this tire. So it's really not likely that this cordless Harbor Freight brand impact gun is going to be able to do the job. Now this one has a bigger lug nut. It's 1 1/2 inch socket, and I've noticed that they're actually fairly far down on the threads on the wheels, so this is not a very deep socket, and if this does work, I'm going to need to buy some deeper sockets to be able to do the job. Our wheel did come with a nice shiny beauty ring hubcap for it, and there's 2 lug nuts that come out a lot farther where some locking nuts actually hold the hubcap on, and there's no way I'll be able to get those with this. This is only maybe 1 inch, 1.5 inches deep at best, and those are 3 or 4 inches deep. So we're just going to try some of the easier ones that it'll be able to grab. So let's give it a try and see what happens. So So we'll start with this one. This is only covering maybe half or a little more than half of the lug nut with this socket. So this definitely, if this works, this socket's not going to be what I'm going to keep in the bus. I'm going to have to get a longer one. But let's give it a try. Battery's full. We're on reverse. And again, these things are going to have 500 to 600 foot-pounds of torque on these things. And that would be pretty amazing if this thing can deliver that. So here we go. And it took that one out. No trouble. That's a big old beefy lug nut. Let's screw it back on. That's not how it's supposed to happen. Alright, it makes a lot of noise too. Let's try another one just for fun since we're here, because that's kind of surprising that one worked. Maybe it was a fluke. This one, it seems to go down a little bit farther on the wheel, so I feel better about that. And still full battery. Here we go. And there we go. Another lug nut off. And let's screw it back on. Alright, so that is a pretty amazing result that I did not expect to happen. This thing is for sure not hitting the 1,200 foot-pounds that they advertise on the box, but this is legitimately nuts that were torqued on with 500 to 600 foot-pounds each, and it didn't seem to have too much trouble with it at all. That's pretty surprising for a Harbor Freight tool, and this is definitely a tool that I'm going to be keeping in the bus. One thing I hate being is stranded without tools to get myself out of a situation, and this thing seems like it's going to fill that gap. I may not have any other use for it than that, but compared to the complexity and cost of upgrading my air system to be able to run a heavier duty air impact gun, this thing is pretty much a bargain. This was like $250 at Harbor Freight, and whatever the cost of sockets are. So that's a pretty surprising result, and I'll have to tell my little brother that he was right, because he told me this was kind of the bad boy of electric impacts, and I'm really surprised it did this job. So this thing did do the job and really surprised me that it was able to do it. But the fact of the matter is, this is kind of a single purpose tool for me, at least. I don't have that many things that require that much torque, and this is a pretty hefty tool. This will wear your arm out really quick. It does have a battery pack that really only works with this tool. I think they might have one or two other types of tool that use the same battery pack, but they're probably not as good as this one is. Most of the time I find that I'm working on much smaller stuff that I need power, but I also need to be able to fit the tool into places, and I need to not wear my arm out while I'm doing it. If you're taking screws out of your ceiling panels, or you're doing really any kind of normal under hood or in the cabin space work, you would be a lot more suited with something a little bit smaller. So what I have a Bosch 18 volt impact drill. You see the size difference between these two. This thing probably weighs more than double, probably closer to 3 times what this weighs. This thing, being a Bosch, being one of their series, the battery that comes with this works in a bunch of different Bosch tools. I also have a drill. I also have like a Sawzall type of tool, and a couple other things that use the same battery pack. The battery does last a good long time in this. It probably lasts a long time in the Earthquake XT also, but you only have so many things you can do with it. This is a tool that you can use all day. So when you get it, it comes with a screwdriver bit, but you have to buy, if you're working on a school bus, you need a number 3 Phillips, and I think it came with a number 2, so I bought some additional bits. It does also, I believe, come with a adapter that lets you plug in a 3/8 drive socket into it, and slips out real nice. And then you have a really nice, surprisingly powerful impact that you can take off just about anything short of a lug nut. This has been probably my most used tool since we started working on buses. The first time I saw one in action, I knew I had to go get one, and it was an affordable piece too. So this is definitely something that I recommend very highly if you're working on buses for just about everything except for lug nuts. And it might do a lug nut on a car, I don't know. It definitely won't do one on a school bus. So in conclusion, I would say if you're concerned about being able to take lug nuts off of your bus and you have a budget of $250 to spend on that problem, the Earthquake XT is a really good buy. For 99% of the rest of the time, anytime you're doing screws or bolts, this Bosch is really going to be the better choice. But as you can see, I own both because they have their own jobs. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.